Okay, this is a Maimer, a Chanukah Maimer. Believe it or not, we're less than a month now away from Chanukah. And so this is a Maimer that was said in the Tovshin Chaf Vav, 1965, it would have been, 1965, Erev Chanukah, which was Shabbos, like this year. Shabbos is Erev Chanukah, the first night of Chanukah is Motzei Shabbos. Here's the Maimer. Lehovin, Inyan, Neros, Chanukah. To understand the idea behind the candles of Chanukah, the Chanukah candles. That's what this Maimer is going to try and explain. We know that the candles we light on Chanukah were decreed by our sages because of the miracle that happened with the candles in the temple. What was that miracle? That there was no oil to light the menorah till they found one jar of oil that would have lasted one night. It lasted 8 instead. And so because of that miracle of the candles, we light candles. The sages decreed that we should light candles every year to commemorate that miracle. Now, whenever we find a rabbinical decree, like Chanukah. Chanukah is a rabbinical festival. It's not a Torah festival. It doesn't say in the Torah to keep Chanukah. It didn't happen in Torah times. It was in the times of the temple. And the rabbis decreed this festival. Whenever the rabbis make a decree, a rabbinical decree, they always shape it on a Torah law. The principle is v'chol d'token rabbanon ke'ein d'oraisa token. Any rabbinical decree is going to be similar to a Torah mitzvah. Meaning the way the rabbis structured their rabbinical mitzvahs is that they modeled the mitzvah on some Torah mitzvah to give it some basis, some background. So here as well, there's a rabbinical decree to light the menorah. It's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. Now, where would the rabbis have modeled that mitzvah? On the Beis Hamikdash. There's a mitzvah to light the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. And so the rabbis, when they made their decree, they modeled the mitzvah on that mitzvah. The rabbinical mitzvah of lighting the menorah is modeled on the Torah mitzvah to light the menorah in the temple. But Mikol Makom, nevertheless, Harihem Chalukim B'Kam Inyanim. We find many discrepancies between the lighting of the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash, which was the Torah mitzvah, and the rabbinical mitzvah of lighting the menorah in our homes on Chanukah. Which is strange. If one is modeled on the other, we would expect to find similarities, and yet we find quite a few differences. What are those differences? Let's have a look. First of all, b'misparim. One major difference is in the number of candles. Because in the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash they lit 7 candles. And there are 8 candles in the menorah of Chanukah. That's one difference. Secondly, b'makom amidasam, a second difference is the place where they're lit. Where do we put the menorah? Da menorah haisa bifnim, b'soicha kodesh, u'b'darim yamin. In the temple, the menorah was placed inside the sanctuary itself, in the kodesh, in the sanctuary, and in the south side of the sanctuary, which is the right side. South is right, because the Shechina b'Mairav, the divine presence, rests in the west. So that means Hashem is in the west. So facing east is forward for Hashem. So south is right. Yeah? If Hashem is in the west, so then east is facing forwards for Hashem. So south is the right side. So that's where the temple menorah was, in the holy sanctuary, and on the right side, the south side. But Neros Chanukah, mitzvah lanicham mibachutz ubesmal. The mitzvah of lighting the Chanukah is to place the menorah outside the house and on the left side of the door. Unlike the temple menorah, which was inside on the right, Chanukah menorah is outside on the left. Now we today light our menorahs inside the house, but the original custom was to light it outside the front door. In Yerushalayim they still do it. If you've ever been in Yerushalayim for Chanukah, it's a beautiful thing. You see all these menorahs outside the house. They stopped doing that in times where there were decrees against Jewish people, so lighting menorahs outside was a dangerous thing. in danger of the menorah being destroyed or the house being destroyed or the people in it. So they started lighting menorahs inside at the windows. Even that became dangerous. So then people started lighting the menorahs inside the house in a doorway. And many people have maintained that custom still today to light the menorah inside the house in a doorway. But the original mitzvah was to light the menorah outside. The exact opposite to the temple menorah, which was specifically inside in the sanctuary. It was outside, and not on the right side, but on the left side. So, in the number of lights, they're different. In the place we light the menorah, it's different. And thirdly, ubizman hadlakasim, in the time of lighting the menorah, they're different. The Neros hamikdash idliku miplaga mincha. The temple candles were lit from plag hamincha onwards. What is plag hamincha? Meshech zman shah revia kodim shtishkash achama. A time period which is an hour and a quarter halachic hours before sunset. And the Chanukah lights you have to light specifically after the sun sets, not before.
I think they lit in the morning. Or was it another?
No, they lit it in the evening, and it lit till the morning. It didn't have to be lit all day. So again, the idea, the timing of the lighting was different. In the Beis Hamikdash, they lit it from Plaga Mincha. Plaga Mincha means halfway through the Mincha, the afternoon time, and that is worked out to be an hour and a quarter of halachic hours before sunset. Halachic hours means taking the day and dividing it into 12 hours, no matter how long the day is. Right? So long summer days, an hour is long. Short winter days, an hour is short. That's halachic hours. So if you take from sunrise to sunset, whatever that time is, divide it into 12. An hour and a quarter, or 1/12 and a quarter of a 12th before sunset is called Plaga Mincha. That, by the way, that's the time, the earliest time you can bring in Shabbos, light Shabbos candles. You know, when it's advertised, the earliest time to light Shabbos candles, it's Plaga Mincha. That's what it is. So that's when they lit the menorah. So when it was still light, Plaga Mincha, it's still light outside. It's an hour and a quarter or more before sunset. It's still light outside. That's when they lit the menorah. Whereas the halacha is today, when we light the menorah for Chanukah, that it should be lit after sunset, not before sunset. Just the halachic point, you can light it before sunset, after Plaga Mincha, if you have to. It is still acceptable as long as it'll still be lit at night. We do that, for example, everyone does that on Friday before Shabbos. You light it after Plaga Mincha. And every night of Chanukah you can do that, but ideally it's supposed to be lit. The best time, the correct time to light it is after sunset. So we see here again the halachas are different. So
when they say they base the halacha on it, doesn't mean it's exact. Like even if you say
right,
like
but any difference needs to be explained. If the sages, when they enact a rabbinical mitzvah, they base it on the Torah mitzvah, so anything they do that's different to the Torah mitzvah, that's not like the Torah mitzvah, is significant and needs to be explained. And more than that, it shows a differentiation between the original mitzvah that it's being based on and the rabbinical mitzvah that it's being created. So if dafka, this is that way and that's this way, it must mean something. So continues the Rabbi, Mosif, Kvod Krish Mori Chama Admar. We're on the line that starts with the word Hachama. 7 lines down. Mosif Kvod Krish Mori Chama Admar. And so my father-in-law, the Rebbe says, my father-in-law, the Friedrich Rebbe, adds to this, Behemshech Padav Shalom Hatavshin Dalid, in a series of Maimarim called Padav Shalom from the year Tavshin Dalid, 1944. Oy Diag Vazeh, another point, another differentiation, Shaner Chanukah Mitzvah Lanicha B'Mechutz. That with the Chanukah candle, the mitzvah is to put it outside. We don't find any other mitzvah that has to be outside, other than paraduma. Paraduma had to be slaughtered and burnt outside the temple. the red heifer. But there's no other mitzvah that dafka cannot be, should be outside, should be done outside. We don't find such a thing. So it's not just that the Chanukah menorah is different to the menorah of the Beis HaMikdash. It's different to any mitzvah in that it's done outside. Dafka, it has to be done outside. Not it can be done, but it should be done. It has to be done in Rosh Hashanah Dafka, specifically in the public domain. We don't find such a thing. So the Frierdiker Rebbe who brings up this point explains in that mimer that the simple reason why Ner Chanukah is done outside, we light it outside, unlike any other mitzvah, is because the whole point of lighting the Chanukah menorah is Pirsumei Nisa, to publicize the miracle of Chanukah. So publicizing something doesn't work if you do it inside. If you do it under wraps, it has to be done publicly and on the outside. That's a simple reason. But this explanation is not enough to justify the uniqueness of this mitzvah that it's done specifically outside, unlike any other mitzvah. Just because it's Pirsumei Nisa to publicize the miracle. That's not a good enough answer. Because the miracle of Purim is also publicized through the meal, the festive meal we make on Chanukah, on Purim, and the giving of the gifts to our friends, food gifts and gifts to the poor. All of the reason of all of those mitzvahs of Purim, is to publicize the miracle of Purim. But there's no requirement to do it in public. It doesn't say that you should have your festive meal on the street. You do it at home. A matanos levyonim doesn't have to be done in public, or giving gifts of food to other friends. So if Pirsumei Nisa, if the idea of publicizing a miracle is publicizing, and publicizing therefore needs to be done publicly, outside, on the street, so then why on Purim is there no requirement to do anything on the street? You can have your entire Purim celebration at home and do all the mitzvahs at home without doing it on the street. And yet Chanukah, specifically, you have to light the menorah on the street. It has to be an outside thing. It needs further explanation. So all of these discrepancies between the menorah of the temple and the menorah of Chanukah obviously denote some inner meaning. There's something of what Chanukah represents, of what the menorah of Chanukah represents, that is specifically done in the number 8, not the number 7 like the temple. It's specifically done on the outside and on the left, as opposed to on the inside and on the right in the temple. And the outsideness of it, the fact that no other mitzvah is outside, and this is dafka outside, all of this must be symbolic. And the fact that we light it when it's dark, after sunset, as opposed to the temple candles which were lit before sunset when it was still light.
How is it on the left for us? What does that mean again?
The left of the doorway.
Left of the doorway.
So it should be done at a doorway on the left side. So the mezuzah is on the right side, and the menorah is on the left side. So base. The basic explanation, the point that answers all of this, which is brought in the Mamarim of Chanukah. The whole point of the Chanukah candles is to illuminate darkness, to bring light into a dark place. Because due to the war that the Greeks fought against the Jewish people to try and make them forget Hashem's Torah and to take them away from the laws of Hashem's will. And certainly after the Greeks entered into the sanctuary itself and contaminated all the oil in the sanctuary, so the result of this war against Judaism, it wasn't a war to try and kill Jews. It wasn't just a territorial thing, but it was to make us forget Torah, to stop doing mitzvahs, to contaminate the sanctuary, not destroy the sanctuary. They didn't knock down the temple; they contaminated it, defiled it. So, as a result of this war of the Greeks, Nasa over the page, his gabrus hachoshech d'lumaseh. There was a strengthening of the darkness of the powers of evil. That's really what they were doing. They were trying to take the powers of contamination, of defilement, of darkness, and they should override the power of holiness, which is what Torah Mitzvahs is. So that was really what the war with the Greeks was. It was darkness fighting light. So therefore, when the Hasmoneans, the Jewish rebels against the Greeks, when they became victorious and they conquered the Greeks, so the way we celebrate that and commemorate it is through lighting candles, Chanukah candles. Because the idea of the Chanukah candles is to bring light into darkness, to illuminate darkness. Right? So in other words, the idea of lighting the candles of Chanukah on a simple level is to commemorate the miracle of the oil that lasted 8 days, as opposed to commemorating the war that was won against the Greeks. That was another miracle of Chanukah, that a small band of Jewish rebels conquered this huge, mighty power. But we don't seem to commemorate that in lighting the menorah. That lighting the menorah is a particular story. After winning the war, the oil lasted 8 days, which that was a separate miracle. But Chassidus explains that no, it's actually one thing. The idea of lighting the candles of the oil that was contaminated, but nevertheless it was found, there was oil left, and it lit and it shone for 8 days. That actually is a depiction of the miracle of the war as well. Because the war was light against darkness. The powers of holiness versus the powers of impurity that were trying to defile. And so the menorah is not just a commemoration of the oil miracle, it also represents the war miracle of the victory against the Greeks in general. And that's why the defining mitzvah of Chanukah is lighting the menorah. Not because we ignore the war and commemorate just the miracle of the oil, because that actually represents the entire story of Chanukah, bringing light to banish darkness, the light of holiness. And so, with that principle, with that understanding of the point, of the meaning, of the inner symbolism of the Chanukah menorah, that it is illuminating darkness, which represents spiritual darkness, we'll understand all of the differences, all of the discrepancies between the Temple Menorah and the menorah of Chanukah. Why? Second line in the middle. So now we understand, first of all, why the timing of lighting the menorah is specifically after the sun has gone down, unlike the Temple Menorah, which was lit in the afternoon. The whole point of the Chanukah candles is to bring light into darkness. So to light it when it's light, that's not the point. The point is to light it when it's dark, nighttime. And also it now makes sense why the place where we light the menorah is outside in the public domain and on the left side, unlike the Temple Menorah, which was inside on the right. Because we want to illuminate the public domain, the place, the Rishus Harabim, literally, which means the domain of the many, which represents literally, Torah de Proda, the mountains of separateness. What that means is that Rishus Harabim, as opposed to Rishus Yachid, represents the powers of impurity as opposed to the powers of holiness. Holiness is called the Rishus Yachid, the domain of the one, the oneness of God. Whereas the Rishus Harabim, the public domain, the place of many, means the place where many, multifaceted world, which is against oneness of God. Right? Rishus Yachid means the place where Hashem's oneness is apparent. Rishus Harabim means the place where it seems there's many different powers, which is darkness, which is the powers of evil. So lighting the menorah in the Rishus Harabim means illuminating the place of Rabbim, the place where the oneness of God is not apparent, where there seems to be many different powers struggling for dominion. That's what the Rishus Harabim represents. And to light the menorah in the Rishus Harabim means to bring the light of God, the light of holiness, into the place of many, the place where Hashem's oneness is not yet apparent.
So that's the opposite of what has to be lit inside as well.
Yeah.
Because representing oneness.
Correct. Correct. The whole point of the menorah is not to light the menorah in a place of holiness, it's to combat the unholiness of the outside. Not the inner circle, but the outer conflicted world of multiplicity. So lighting it outside is the whole point, to bring light into that darkness. And those powers of evil of Rishus HaRabim, Shini Kosam Hu Makava Smoil, their existence, their power comes from the left side as opposed to the right. What does that mean? Left and right in Kabbalistic terminology always represents Gevura is the left and Chesed is the right. The right hand, the stronger hand, the dominant hand is the hand of giving, whereas the left hand, the weaker hand, is the hand of holding back. And if you're left-handed, it's just the other way around. The word right means your stronger hand, and the word left means your weaker hand in Torah. So therefore, the left side represents Gevura. Chesed is giving, revelation, bestowing. Gevura is holding back, restricting, hiding, concealing. And so the power of Gevura is necessary as a part of creation. It's not a bad thing, but the power of Gevura can lead to bad. Because Chesed means where Hashem's light is revealed. Where Hashem's light is revealed, there can be no evil. But Gevura means where Hashem's light is concealed, the concealment of Hashem's light. And where there's concealment of Hashem's light, in that void, evil can have a place. The powers of evil can have a place. So left, it's important to understand, left, smol in Kabbalah doesn't mean evil, but it means that's the source or the opening where evil can come in. Wherever there's Gevura, there's the possibility of Ra, of evil. So,
isn't it the other way? The other way around.
Why?
Because Gevura is the strength of holding back, withdrawing, and the Chesed is...
No, well, once you're withdrawing, what are you withdrawing? Divine light. You're subtracting divine light. You're hiding, concealing, limiting divine light. So what's left? The emptiness. And emptiness invites other powers. Where there's chesed is expression of the divine. So where godliness is expressed, there's no room for anything else. Where godliness is hidden and concealed, there's room for something else, which is necessary. For there to be a world, there needs to be Gevura. There needs to be Hashem's concealment. But by definition, what that does is it brings about the possibility of evil. So if there would not have been a tzimtzum, a contraction, a concealment of the divine light, which is Gevura, which is left, so then there wouldn't be a world. There'd just be godliness, which is good, but there's no world. To have a world, there needs to be a contraction, which is Gevura, which is small. But once there's a contraction, that means there really is possibility of some other power, of otherness. If there just be chesed, that it'll be all Rishus HaYachid. It'll all be Hashem's oneness be revealed. Gevura allows there to be Rishus HaRabim, that there are other powers, other options, other choices, including evil. So in Kabbalistic terms, the Yanika, the nourishment of evil, comes from Smoil. From the left side, the concealment of Hashem. Once Hashem is concealed, the void leaves room for evil. So that's why the Chanukah menorah is lit on the outside and on the left side of the doorway. The outside, because we're trying to illuminate the outside, the Rishus HaRabim, the place of multiplicity where Hashem's light is not yet revealed. We're bringing light to that place. And on the left side, not on the right side. The right side represents Chesed, divine revelation. We don't need to light the menorah on the side of divine revelation. On the right side, that's where it's all fine. We need to light the menorah on the left side, which is the source of concealment, of where the powers of evil have a hold. That's where we need to light the menorah to try and illuminate that place, the place of darkness. Yeah? This also answers the number of candles. Why in the temple it was 7 candles, in the menorah it was 8. On the 5th line, in the middle. This is also the reason why the Chanukah candles are 8. Because the fact that Chanukah candles have the power to illuminate darkness. Gam choshech the Rishus Rabbim, even the darkness of the Rishus Rabbim, the street, the place of multiplicity. That's because the light that is produced by the Chanukah candles is a light that comes from a place higher than Ishtalshalos, higher than the system of creation, higher than the normal order of things. Meaning, to make a dark place light on a spiritual level is a very powerful thing to do. We're not here just saying, we're used to the idea you have a dark room, you turn on the light, now it's light. But spiritually, to illuminate darkness doesn't just mean to bring light instead of darkness. It means that darkness itself should become light. The place of darkness should be illuminated. To transform and change around, to conquer the darkness. To be able to do that, you need a light that is higher than Ishtalshalos, higher than the system of the world. Because the system of the world is there's light and there's darkness. Spiritually, there's powers of good and there's powers of evil. There's the right and there's the left. There's Hashem's revelation and Hashem's concealment. To bring revelation into the place of concealment, you need to draw down a light that is higher than both revelation and concealment. Higher than the both of them. To transform darkness into light, you need a light that's coming from a higher place. So the light of the menorah, the energy, we're not just talking about the physical light of a candle. We're talking about the spiritual light that the menorah generates to illuminate the outside and the left side, the darkness. After sundown, the dark place, that power has to come from higher than Ishtalshalos, higher than the normal system of things. Because in the normal system, there's light and there's darkness. There's two separate things. Here we're saying that darkness becomes light. That has to come from higher than Ishtalshalos. And that's why there are 8 candles. Because the number 8 represents that power that is beyond and higher than Ishtalshalos, higher than the system. 7 is the number of nature, 7 days of creation, 7 colors in the rainbow, 7 notes in the octave. You know, octave means 8 because it brings you back to do. You start with do and you end with do. So there's only really 7 notes, then you go back to do. So 7 is the number of creation. That's the number of the system. That's the shape of nature. Is 7. 8 represents that which is beyond, which is higher than the system. There's no 8th day in the system of creation. There's no 8th color. It's something that's beyond the system of creation, which is higher than Ishtalshalos. So the Chanukah candles, which their mission is to make darkness into light, to turn things upside down, to make the system of creation work totally differently to its nature, that the powers of evil and darkness and outsideness should become light. That power has to come from higher than Ishtalshalos, which is the number 8. And a similar thing applies to the Yontiv itself. The Yontiv of Chanukah, the fact that the Chanukah festival goes for 8 days, Inyan says in the Gemara, the festival of Chanukah is an 8-day festival, unlike any other festival. The Torah festivals are 7-day festivals, at the most. Even Sukkot, that has an 8th day, but that's a new Yontiv. Shmini Atzeres is a new Yontiv. You have 7 days of Sukkot, finished, then Shmini Atzeres is another Yontiv, a 1-day Yontiv. And Shavuos is 1 day. Pesach is 7 days. To have an 8-day Yontiv, which is Chanukah, that's a unique thing. So why is Chanukah 8 days? It's because the revelation that comes down on Chanukah is a revelation that is higher than Ishtalshalos. The entire Chanukah experience is an experience that's higher than Ishtalshalos, so therefore it's an 8-day festival. Yeah? Now, the next paragraph in the middle. The fact that there's this light that is higher than Ishtalshalos, that shines during the 8 days of Chanukah, and specifically it shines in the lighting of the menorah of Chanukah. Where does this come from? Why did Chanukah merit to this unbelievable light that is higher than the whole system, that is longer than any other festival, 8 days, because it's the power of 8? Where did Chanukah get it from? Right, we've explained, we've used this principle to say this is why Chanukah is different. This is why it's different to the temple. That the menorah is lit at night, not in the day. It's lit in the outside on the left, not inside on the right, because we're trying to combat the powers of evil, and to do that you have to draw down a light that's higher than a shalshal, so therefore it's an 8-day festival, and that's 8 lights. But how did Chanukah get this unbelievable power that is so high? It was drawn down through the Mesiras Nefesh of Matisyahu and his sons. They were the Hasmoneans that fought against the Greeks, and it was Matisyahu and his 4 sons, a small little band of people who led this rebellion with absolute Mesiras Nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh meaning total self-sacrifice, completely beyond any call of duty, any logical, rational thing to fight such a huge enemy without much Jewish support. The Jewish people at the time, many of them were happy with the Greeks being in control. So it was such Mesiras Nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh drew down this light in the original Chanukah story, and therefore every year at the time there's a light that comes down that's higher than Ishtalshalos. Why? Because Matisyahu and his children acted in a way of Mesiras Nefesh. Why? Why? What's the correlation between Mesiras Nefesh and a light that's higher than Ishtalshalos? Meaning the connection that this light has with the darkness that was at those times of the Greeks is in 2 ways. It works from below to above and from above to below. Meaning, from below to above. That because of the darkness, the awesome darkness that the Jewish people were in at that time, that itself awakened in Matisyahu and his children the koich Mesiras Nefesh, which is higher than Ishtalshalos in the person. And through that they drew down the divine energy of the essence of Hashem that's higher than Ishtalshalos. Meaning, when you are in a state of darkness, of challenge, where you're outnumbered, you're endangered, and things are looking bad, so on the revealed level, there's nothing much you can do. If Matisyahu and his children would have sat around and spoken rationally, what should be done? We've got this huge Greek army coming to vanquish us. Most of the Jewish people are happy for them to be in control. They were Hellenists. Most of the Jews were Hellenists at the time. They were giving in. They were assimilationists. So what's the rational, logical thing to do? What would you do if you were strategizing? What's the best thing to do? Either going to hiding, just run away, get out of here, or just give in. There was no logical argument to say that they should fight. So where did the power to fight come from? A place that's higher than logic, that's super rational, that's beyond rational. It wasn't like, look, the best thing to do is to fight. It makes the most sense. No, it made no sense whatsoever for them to do it. Why were they doing it? Because we're Jewish, and the Jewish people can't give up. We can't do this. We can't disconnect from Hashem. So it was Mesiras Nefesh that made them fight, not logic, not rational arguments. That Mesiras Nefesh, that idea is going beyond Ishtalshalos in the person. A person also has Ishtalshalos, the system, the logical, rational system of living, where you analyze a situation and respond reasonably to the needs of the situation. Then there's Mesiras Nefesh, which is higher than rationale, higher than logic, where you're not being reasonable at all. You're saying, it makes no sense, but I'm not going to give up my Yiddishkeit. And you fight for it. That's higher than Ishtalshalos within the person. There's the person's Ishtalshalos, normal, neat system of living, and then there's a level that's beyond that. It just makes no sense whatsoever. So, because the Jewish people were in a state of darkness, darkness itself draws out the power of Mesiras Nefesh. Because you're in that state, being challenged and being oppressed, so that drew out a Mesiras Nefesh from them. So Milamata Lamaila, they were in a state of Mesiras Nefesh, reaching out towards Hashem because of the darkness. The darkness, the lowly state, drew them upwards to fight with Mesiras Nefesh. That's one way of looking at it. Also, you could say Umilamayla Lamata. It came from above to below. That through the light that they then generated, that light lit up the darkness. The darkness caused the light then lit up the darkness. It's like a circular thing. Because they were in a state of darkness, that aroused Mesiras Nefesh. Because they had Mesiras Nefesh, the light of Mesiras Nefesh was drawn down to illuminate the darkness. So it's milamata lamayla. It started with a lowly state drawing them upwards, and then milamay lamata, they drew down light through their Mesiras Nefesh to come down into the darkness.
Yeah, it definitely started below.
Yeah. Now, with that principle, we can understand all the differences between the Chanukah lights and the Beis HaMikdash lights. The Ursha Beis HaMikdash, because the light that shone in the Beis HaMikdash, because it was not drawn down through Mesiras Nefesh, it wasn't some darkness that needed to be illuminated, and so we overcame it, and therefore we got a mitzvah to light the candle in the Beis HaMikdash. No, the mitzvah that lighting the candle in the Beis HaMikdash was a daily mitzvah. It wasn't a response to some darkness. There wasn't some challenge to the Jewish people that Hashem said, light the candles in the Beis HaMikdash. It's just a mitzvah of regular, routine lighting candles. So therefore, the revelation of the candles of the Beis HaMikdash is a revelation that is within Hishtalshalos, within the system of creation. It's a normal light. Zayin Neros, so therefore it's 7 candles in the Beis HaMikdash, because 7 is the number of creation. You're bringing light into creation, but in a normal, orderly fashion. Now a light within Hishtalshalos, a normal spiritual energy that is within creation, has not got the power to illuminate darkness. It can't transform darkness. Light is light, darkness is darkness, and they can't mix. They don't. One can't interrupt the other. Normal light. Therefore, because darkness is an opposition to light. So light has its place, darkness has its place, and they can't. One can't overcome the other. Therefore, the candles of the Beis HaMikdash were placed inside the holy space, on the right side, the southern end of the temple. And the time of the lighting of the candles was a period of time before sundown. Because those candles don't have the power to combat darkness. That's not their thing. They're candles of light within Hishtalshalos. And in the system of Hishtalshalos, light has its place, darkness has its place. There's chesed and there's gvura. There's the right side and there's the left side. There's a certain amount of revelation, and then there's a certain amount of concealment. And revelation cannot override concealment. There has to be a delicate balance. So the light of the menorah was 7, which is a part of the systematic world. It had to be lit during the day, because light has its place during the day. So that's when you light the candles, not in the night time. It has to be lit on the right side, not on the left side, because light is revelation, which is chesed, which is right. Don't mess with the left side, with the dark side, with the outside, because that's not the place of light. Light belongs there, darkness belongs there. That's the candles of the Beis HaMikdash. But Neros Chanukah shalachrei Mesiras Nefesh. But the candles of Chanukah, because that came as a result of Mesiras Nefesh, of people living on a level higher than Hishtalshalos, living on an irrational, super-rational level of connection with Hashem. Hem Shmeina Neros, there was 8 candles. A light that is higher than Hishtalshalos, Shemer gamas achoshech. And that light can actually go into the jurisdiction of darkness, into its territory, and turn it around.
Wasn't the menorah in the base of Mikdash also to light up the world as well?
It was to light up the world, of course, it was. But there's two forms of lighting up the world. There's bringing light where light belongs, and then there's taking light to combat darkness, to transform darkness. It's two different things. One of them is where light is doing its job, has its place. The other one is where light is actually subsuming the place of darkness, replacing darkness.
So when you do a normal mitzvah, which light is that?
So a normal mitzvah is increasing light in the world.
The normal light.
Yeah.
But it's not combating darkness.
It depends how you do the mitzvah. When you do a mitzvah with Mesiras Nefesh, then it's different.
So that's how it's accessed daily.
Yeah.
Because it's the 8-day period. But what about the rest of the days?
Yeah, well, like every yontiv, it's something that applies all the time. Just there's a yontiv for it. This is the season of it, but it's a daily thing. So there's two types of avodah, of serving Hashem. There's serving Hashem, increasing goodness in the world, and then there's more than that, where you're actually battling darkness and transforming darkness. So you can work on your strengths and avoid your weaknesses. Minimize doing bad and maximize doing good as much as you can. But then there's actually going into your ugliness and your dark side and changing it around, transforming it. That's a different thing. There's doing good, and then there's changing the bad.
I often read it says like our job is not to transform the darkness, but to just bring in more light. Like
meaning the way we transform darkness is bringing more light. It's not don't battle with the darkness. Just increase the light, and that will automatically change the darkness. But there's two different types of light. There's a light that has its place, and there's a light that actually goes into the darkness. Let's just do the last paragraph and just to finish it off. So the Friedrich Rebbe explains in the Maimon that we quoted earlier. That's why our sages decreed that the Chanukah lights should be lit specifically outside the door, in the public arena. Even though we don't find any other mitzvah other than paraduma that needs to be done outside. Because the whole point of the Chanukah candles is to illuminate the outside, as we said earlier. And so therefore, even though mitzvahs generally are done inside, this mitzvah is done outside, specifically because it's to illuminate the darkness. But l'chura, this explanation needs further explanation. I mean, we've so far, just in this section of the Maimon that we've done, we've asked a bunch of questions and we've answered it. Could have ended there. That why is the Chanukah menorah different to the Beis HaMikdash menorah? So we said because the Beis HaMikdash menorah is normal light that has its place. It's not combating darkness. Whereas the menorah of Chanukah is combating darkness, and therefore it goes into the territory of darkness, of evil. But the Rabbi says that this needs further explanation. If on Chanukah we're talking about a light that is higher than a shtalshlus, that shines in the world for the 8 days of Chanukah, and this light has the power to illuminate the darkness of the street, of the outside world of evil and multiplicity, and this was drawn down through the Mesiras Nefesh, the self-sacrifice of Matisyahu and his children, who lived on a level that's higher than Ishtalshalis, so therefore a light higher than Ishtalshalis came down into the world. We should say then, didn't the same thing happen on Purim? On Purim, didn't they also have Mesiras Nefesh? In fact, the Mesiras Nefesh in Chanukah was a small group of people. Matisyahu and his 4 kids. Whereas the Mesiras Nefesh of Purim was the entire nation, men, women, and children.
Where was the Mesiras? Where was it?
What was the Mesiras Nefesh in Purim? The Jewish people were given an edict of destruction. They're going to be annihilated. Men, women, and children, everyone's going to be destroyed. But the edict was Yehudim, meaning people who are actively Jewish are going to be destroyed. But if anyone wants to deny their Jewishness and join the club and worship idols and just drop the whole thing, they will not be annihilated. It wasn't a racial thing. It was an ideological battle against the Jewish people, and so therefore they were given the option. And not one Jew dropped their Jewishness to save their lives. No one. They knew that they were under threat of death and annihilation, and nobody gave up their Jewishness. Not one. For an entire year, the whole decree, the whole story took a year. So there was an entire year of people, people could have got together and said, let's be Moranos. We'll pretend we're not Jewish anymore. We'll come back to it when Haman dies. No one did that. They maintained their Jewishness on pain of death. That's ultimate Mesiras Nefesh, willingness to be put to death for being Jewish of an entire nation.
How could Mashiach not have come in that state then?
Well, Mordechai was,
Right.
So that's Mesiras Nefesh. In the case of Chanukah, there's also amazing Mesiras Nefesh to fight a huge army, to remain true to the Jewish way. I mean, that is an amazing. But who? Matisyahu and his children, 5 people. The rest of the Jewish people were not all that Mesiras Nefesh at that time. On the contrary, they were ready to join. So if you want to talk about a Mesiras Nefesh festival that draws down a power that's higher than a Shtalshalos and lights up the darkness, surely Purim would come before Chanukah in that. And nevertheless, we don't find our sages made any mitzvah on Purim that needs to be on the street, out there bringing light to the darkness, whereas Chanukah we do. Implying that Chanukah drew down this light, higher than a Shtalshalos, that has the power to light up the darkness, and Purim didn't. But why? If the whole explanation is it's Mesiras Nefesh, going higher than your Hishtalshalos, draws down a light that's higher than Hishtalshalos, if that's the mechanism, so then surely on Purim that happened much more than on Chanukah. So why is Chanukah the festival of lighting up the outside and the darkness, and Purim not? That needs to be explained.